The first time a child doesn't have a seatbelt on in their life, maybe, is when they get on their school bus to go to school.
They spend years and years and years from a backwards car seat to a booster seat to a high back bucket to a regular seat belt, teaching the child to do this right thing and wear a seat belt, and boom, we throw him in a school bus when he's 6 years old and he doesn't have a seat belt. And a lot of parents don't realize that.
50 years after the federal government mandated seatbelts in all passenger cars, they're still not required on U.S. school buses.
As a society, we hang our hats on the idea that school bus wrecks happen so infrequently. And because they're big and yellow and people avoid hitting them, it's not going to happen that often to worry about. Unfortunately, sometimes that worst case scenario happens.
Crashed. Police do confirm multiple fatalities. In the rollover crash, if you're not belted, you are accelerated. You're hurled out of your seat.
You have a lot of energy, a lot of force that's going on. And if the occupant is thrown from their seating compartment, then they're vulnerable to all sorts of injury.
The gaps we found were glaring, and the results of those gaps were as tragic as they were unnecessary.
How important are seatbelts? How critical are they?
Seatbelts are everything. Absolutely everything.
Why aren't there seatbelts on all school buses now, knowing what we know?
Cost. Bottom line, money.
Is going to increase the number of buses needed to transport the same amount of kids. There's a great amount of cost associated with that.
The safety of the kids is more important than the cost of putting seatbelts in buses.
Our taxpayers would not understand it if we had a fatality and we said, well, we saved a little bit of money on our contract by not having seatbelts in our school buses.
When it comes down to it, most of the school districts have the funding. It's just a matter of prioritization.
It's a matter of will. It's a matter of spending the money.
If there are valid reasons for not having seatbelts, I don't think there's one that exists. It would be very tragic to get up in the morning, look at the mirror and say, if we'd have had seatbelts, those kids probably would have survived that bus rollover.
I go by it twice a day, every day.
Darlene Schluter has lived just outside Warden, Montana for more than 30 years. And she has the unfortunate distinction of being the first person to arrive on the scene of a school bus crash in April 2008.
Well, I was coming home from work, and it was a chilly day, I remember that, and cloudy, kind of overcast, the wind was blowing a little. And as I approached my turn, I could see a bus that was, halfway across the lane I was in and down kind of in the borrow pit. I saw kids standing, I think they were here, and they were crying, and some of them had a little bit of blood on them. And I said, you bigger kids, go ahead and hold the hands of the little ones. And I said, let's just get in the back of my pickup. And I dropped the tailgate, and they got up there, and a couple were cold, and I gave them my coats. And then the one, she said, aren't you even going to help my sister? And as I looked over, I could see her laying in the road. She had a coat on her, laying on top of her, and her one leg was kind of bent back. And there was a tennis shoe laying there in the road. That's when I came over, and after the sister called to my attention, she was laying in the road when I came over and started helping her.
Highway Patrol says the bus stopped at an intersection, and when it pulled out to turn,
a pickup truck hauling a trailer loaded with gravel T-boned the Huntley Project school bus at nearly 70 miles an hour. None of the children were wearing seatbelts because there were no seatbelts on the bus.
Members of the committee will come to order, please.
1 year earlier, in the Montana State House, lawmakers had engaged in a heated debate over whether to require seatbelts on all Montana school buses.
Who's going to be responsible for ensuring that the students are seatbelted in?
Worried if you get a bunch of, say, little kids on a field trip, that bus catches fire, how are they going to get out? Who's going to turn them loose?
Who's going to cover the liability for students who use these seatbelts as weapons. You do have to clean seatbelts so often because of germs that are transmitted from one student to the next.
Address some of these things.
They're taking things past what they should be, using an argument that doesn't even hold water. We want children to be in their seats during a crash because that's the safest place for them to be.
Montana Senator Jill Cohenauer has been at the center of the school bus seatbelt battle for more than a decade.
So I ran and was elected in 2003. That was the first session that I was in, and started doing seatbelt work from the very beginning. I think that parents aren't aware of the fact in some cases that their child is not sitting in a seatbelt.